In this video, we're going to take a look at a blue ink by Akkerman, their number 4 Nassaua Blue. As always, there's timestamps down below so you can skip around, but if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, let's get into the first writing sample done on 90 GSM Clairfontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is about the same tone as the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 14 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 21 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both shows no color variation. We're not expecting it, we're not getting it, but the smear test says you can recover it if you smeared while you were writing. To have a range of experience with this ink, all of the writing samples are done with a Jinhao 159 with a 1.1 stub, Jinhao X450 with a medium, Jinhao X750 with an extra fine. Then a Waterman graduate with a fine nib was inked up, used for a day, and then used to take the notes for this video. Let's look at the next writing sample done on 52 GSM Tomoe River. We have no bleeding, we do have some minor ghosting going on here. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is a little bit darker than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 20 seconds to dry. Medium is darker than the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 42 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation, and we don't get any, but the smear test, you still have a strong chance of recovering if you smear while you're writing. I agree with Vita. There's a lot to learn by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the right is done the way it's supposed to be done. A line of ink is put down, and then it's put in the water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we see this very interesting purple at the bottom, working its way up, and then a very nice bright blue. Now this will explain some of the purple lean that we're seeing in some of the writing. The one on the left was let dry for 10 minutes before it was put into water, and we see that that purple is really starting to form a line on the bottom of this filter paper in only 10 minutes, giving us the idea that perhaps that purple tone might be a little bit resistant. The other interesting thing that actually comes out in this is as you push up and you see that blue, what you see is a very turquoise color at the top, which then got my eye back to the original chromatography where in the middle, I don't know how I missed it, but there is the show of some turquoise there. So we're seeing 3 different colors being mixed to make this very interesting blue. The next writing sample is done on 80 GSM Rhodia dot pad. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is a bit darker than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 12 seconds to dry. The medium is much darker than the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, 20 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation. We didn't expect it, we didn't get it, and the smear test, you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. The smear is allowed to dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, that amount of blowout that has occurred in the lowercase h makes me say no, I would not use this in a note-taking situation if I need to go back and highlight. Now, water is lifting the blue, but not the purple off of there, and it's leaving a nice purple tone at that. Pen flush is lifting even more of the blue, but still leaving the purple. 1/3 bleach solution is completely removing it from the page, and this is where the good news comes because it only took water to get this out of my pen. The next writing sample is done on Moji paper. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is just a tad darker than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 7 seconds to dry. Medium is by far the darkest tone, With no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 12 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby of the extra fine shows color variation, but we didn't get it. The medium shows none, and we got none. And the smear test says you could recover it if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average viscosity was 2.5, and the realm of normal was 2.1 to 2.9. Akkerman's No. 4 Nassaua Blue has a viscosity of 1.55, making this a pretty wet ink. If you're interested in how the viscosity and all that's done, then there's a link to that video down in the description. Now let's take a look at the next writing sample done on moleskin paper. Lots of bleeding spots going on in a medium, but more look at the extra fine. There's spots that definitely bleed quite a bit deep into the paper, but they're not coming through the paper. They're not ruining the back of the page. And for a pocket-sized notebook, I see this as perfectly acceptable. And I think using the extra fine, you could use the back of the page. The medium did not touch the page underneath, so at least it's got that. Now the medium, yeah, that's feathering. That's ridiculous amounts of feathering. Holy moly. There's not actually a lot of spread, just a lot of ginormous feathers. If pterodactyls had feathers, they'd be this big. No halo, no sheen, no shade. The extra fine is lighter than the stub. The extra fine has tiny feathering that does occur. Much smaller than what's going on in the medium. Much more acceptable than what's going on. We really only see it like the has tiny feathers all over it. Not so distracting to be a problem. The other the, lots of tiny feathering all over it. All of it. Tiny, but not what would stop someone from using this pocket notebook with this ink. 1 second to dry. The scrubby shows no color variation, and there isn't any. In the smear test, you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average dry time was 17 seconds, and the realm of normal was 13 to 21 seconds. Akkerman's No. 4 Nassaua Blue has an average dry time of 22 seconds, making it take a little bit longer than normal. The last writing sample is done on crowd favorite 20-pound copy paper. Now the key here is in the beginning, this medium at the top. There was a lot of spotting on the page underneath from that. So you would not want to use a medium on this paper if you're trying to keep what you have. The extra fine bled quite deep into the paper, as you see everywhere there's any kind of writing. But the extra fine did not touch the page underneath, which means it could be used. The medium has tiny feathering all over it. It does have some spread to about a broad. It has no halo, no sheen, no shade. It looks gross, but it's there, it's working. The extra fine has tiny feathering all over it. It does spread to about a fine, which I think is kind of acceptable on this paper. It has no halo, no sheen, no shade. 1 second to dry. The scrubby shows no color variation. We're not going to get it. And the smear test, you're not going to smear it because it dries so darn fast. Instead of finding inks that look like Akkerman's No. 4 Nassaua Blue, I'd prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I decided to go with a nice orange ink from Tag Cairo Eros, Moonlight of Higashiyama. Now, if you'd prefer a different complement color, then down in the description are links to those playlists. So what do I think of Akkerman No. 4's Nassaua Blue? It's not Nassaua Blue. It's Nassaua Blurple. A heavy purple lean. I was expecting a turquoise lean, really based on the name. I could have accepted that. It just needed a different name. Otherwise, the color is fun on the page and is blue enough for most people's work. So what nib and pen give the best writing experience with this ink? I prefer the darker blurple that you get from a wet medium or fine. But I found that a wet broad really showed too much of the purple lean in this ink. I hope you got something out of this video, and in the next video, we're going to take a look at Noodler's USS Texas.